Hi everyone, it's Michael, and what you see in front of you is the orchid belonging to my dear friend Bree. And today we're going to begin the process of rehabilitating Bree's orchid. So I'm going to take you in closer so you can see exactly why we're doing this, but look just how dehydrated and look how floppy these leaves are. The leaves should be turgid enough to prevent me from doing things like this, but you can see the plant is very, very dehydrated. That said, I don't see any signs of crown rot. I don't see any signs of anything being sick or unhealthy or diseased, so that's really, really positive. So what I'm going to do today is slightly different than my standard repot. I'm not actually going to repot this today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clip off the flower spikes, remove some of the dead and decaying medium, but I am going to then put it straight into the tea bag method. So I can use the tannic acid to really promote some new root growth, rehydrate this plant, and then from there we will move forward into a repot. So I'm not actually going to add this or give it a number to my main collection because this isn't my orchid. I am truly just going to rehydrate it, reposition it. Once it's repotted and has put down some new roots, I'm going to give it right back to Bree. But I did want to show you what that process looks like in case you want to go through a rehab process of your own. So let's start by removing the flower spikes. We'll get rid of these little clips here. All right. So what I've got here is 70% isopropyl alcohol with my cutting tool and just a nice little container to collect all of the old medium. So I'm going to get rid of these stakes. All right. And now let's go ahead and get it unpotted. I'm going to give it a couple quick squeezes. Now it looks like it might be a little root bound at the bottom. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'm just going to yank them right on out. Now I do want to show you guys something. Right at the center, right at the very center of the plant, right next to my thumb, you can see this little plug ball of moss. And that's one of the biggest culprits for why these plants stop doing well. Because from the inside of the root ball, there is a source of rot and decay. Because as this organic medium starts to decay, it starts to compress and suffocate the root system. So this plant actually has a relatively healthy root system. We just want to go ahead and remove that root ball and also get rid of some of the dead and decaying roots. So I'm going to begin that process. All right, so I've gotten as much of the old potting medium out of the orchid's root system as possible, and you can see it's actually in pretty good shape. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clip off the flower spikes, and then I'm going to rinse the root system because by virtue of hydrating it and moistening the roots, they'll turn a nice silvery shade of green, and that way I'll know what are viable roots and what aren't. And one thing to note before I do that, when I clip off these flower spikes, you can see right here, there's a little nodule and a little nodule. It's always best practice when you clip off the flower spikes to clip right above the node. And the reason for that is if any infection sets in or if there's any sort of bacteria that's around, the node will actually stop it from progressing all the way into the core of the plant where the crown is and killing the entire plant. So that's why we do it that way. So let me just set this down and bing, bang, boom, we're gonna get it done. All right, that's done. Let's go ahead and rinse off the root system. All right, guys, I've gone ahead and rinsed it, and now you can see very clearly exactly what I'm talking about. Look, you can tell exactly what the viable roots are, and you can tell exactly what the not viable roots are because they are papery, they are this weird shade of beige, they're hollow, when you pull on them, they fall apart really easily. But the healthy roots have turned this lovely shade of green, so we know that they're good to go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use that as my indicator and my guide for where to clip. I'm gonna get rid of the dead roots, and then we will come back. All right, friends, I have removed all of the dead and decaying matter that I could see, and you can see it's actually got a really viable root system. It seems super, super happy and healthy, even though that these guys are a little dehydrated. So now we're gonna move on to the next step, which is preparing our tea bag solution. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this black tea, this Awake English Tazo tea, because I'm so elegant, and we're going to mix it with a little bit of distilled water and just let it steep for a bit. Now you don't have to wait forever when you're doing this. It doesn't need to be a super, super strong solution. So let's just wait a period of about 5 minutes. Okay, Google, set a timer for 5 minutes.
Sure, 5 minutes, starting now.
All right, guys, the 5 minutes has passed, and you can see we have a nice dilute black tea solution that is going to be rich with tannic acid. And that tannic acid is just going to send a signal to the plant, just like when it rains and the rainwater mixes with the trees and releases tannic acid. It's going to send a signal to this root system and to this orchid that it's time to grow. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this right over the root system. You can see I've arranged the orchid almost as if it's just laying in a jacuzzi. And now I'm going to let this soak all day, and then I'm going to take it out for the entire night. And then in the morning, I'm going to put it back into the water. And I'm going to alternate this process maybe for the next 3 or 4 days until I see that these leaves are less dehydrated and more perked up. When those 3 or 4 days are done, I will come back and we will film the rest. All right, everyone. I wanted to provide you a quick update on Bree's orchid rehab. Today is the day I'm going to go ahead and give her her orchid back because it is doing so much better. As you can see, the leaves are so much more robust, healthy, and expansive. They are a lot more turgid, so I can't bend them the same way I was able to bend them before, which is exactly what we want. And the way that I accomplish this is creating pronounced wet and dry cycles by doing the tea bag method. But after that, it still wasn't quite as turgid as I wanted it, so I just continued to alternate plain distilled water and a dry cycle, and plain distilled water and a dry cycle. So I did that. I would let it soak all day, and then I would take it out and let it dry out all night. And I just did that back and forth for quite some time, maybe about 3 weeks. And it is just doing fantastic now. I did get it repotted into semi-hydroponics, as you can see. So this orchid can look forward to roughly a 4-month adaptation period. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I will link the video below. I show you exactly what the adaptation process looks like, how to expect the root rot, when the new root growth will come in, how the leaves will start to come in a little bit smaller than the previous growths. But it's gonna have a bit of an adaptation, but as long as Bree gives it TLC, it'll be just fine. Thank you guys so much for spending your time with me. If you have any questions, concerns, or feedback, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to click subscribe and have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye, guys.